you? One more time. Stand. Say your word. And what you? Okay.
Says I'm sending ways that I'm using W and I'm more
I'm Helen Stirrup, and I represent the Ohio School Committee.
I'm Chris Endo, and I'm the Northwest Alphabet. Good morning. I'm Estrella Jameson, and I represent the Northwest Committee.
Joel Klein, and I represent
You have to speak up so that Dr. Wood see that here with you.
Steve Hardwick from the Northwest.
Hi, I'm Kristen Lee, and I'm the West Side Alphabet.
I'm Barbara Connor, and I'm the faith-based representative.
I'm Christina Manny, and I'm the West Side. I'm not sure who I represent. My car says I represent the West Side. I think I represent the PTA.
Good morning. My name is Lois Carson. I represent Columbus City School Employees Association, better known as Bus Drivers and Service Workers, worker group. I also am the newly elected state vice president for OT Athens.
Michael Taylor representing Columbus City School Complex Supervisors Association.
Morning, Vincent Clare, I work with the Columbus City School District.
Dr. Russell, Columbus City School
And
Special.
please tell Sherry your
I am the Director of Student Activities, our public faces, interscholastic athletics, and a lot of other after-school programs.
Dr. Russell, Special Ed and Student Support Services. Nikia Smooth, Supervisor of Early Childhood Activities.
Michelle Klein, Chief Accountability Officer.
Alicia Gillison, Chief Academic Officer of Columbus City Schools. Good morning.
Good morning, Maurice Odom, Chief Operating Officer.
Annette Morris, Business and Operations.
Alex Trevino, the District's Director for Capital Improvements. Good morning, I'm David Baker, the Senior Executive Director of Academic Services.
Good morning, I'm Stephen Matthew. I serve as the Executive Director of Business and Operations for Columbus City Schools.
Good morning, I'm Steve Simmons, I'm the Director of Transportation for Columbus City Schools.
Good morning, I'm Dennis Carney. I'm Director of Purchasing for the school.
Good morning, I'm Rhonda Johnson, Director of Education for the city, representing the Director's Office.
Good morning, my name is Emmanuel Reamy. I'm the President of the North End Community Council, and I also am the Board Director of Business Functions. Tom Miller, each.
Good morning, Kenneth Wilson, Administrator, representing the Capital Commission.
Tom Benny, Center C.
Erica Reeves, President of Case Jones for Academic College and Virtual University, Northwest.
Tiffany White, I am currently the chair of the Nursing Community Commission. I represent, I guess, both of these.
I'm Tiffany Grinstead, Northwest, on the Board of Education.
Morning, I'm Jeff Rush, I'm here representing the Columbus Central Ohio University.
We have you about Wednesday University.
I am Neil in our South Community and representing the community.
Joshua William from the Northwest, I'm the Center City area.
Amy Johnson, good morning, representing the Greater Southeast Area Commission and the Southeast Side. Our schools are Independence High School, Liberty, and Yorkville.
Good morning, I'm Cindy Roadway. I'm representing CAP, which is part of the Achievement Community Information for Health Science Academy on the other side of Congress, as well as representing government affairs for the Ohio State University.
Patricia Chapman, representing the East Side, and also the Southeast Side as well. Good morning, I'm Sutton, representing the West Side, and also the
comments, small and mid-sized businesses. Down we have that beach ball, serving students outside Avalon, beach ball, the Navy Park, also the West Indian and Children's
I can put a room together of everybody that's going to tell me yes. That doesn't help me when I get in the community and there's a whole group of people saying no. So if you think we have the best diversity of people who's going to share those opinions, who's going to help us get to the best recommendations possible, okay? All right, are there any questions? Any questions about roles, responsibility, charter, where we are, and what we need to do next?
Real quick, we need to use that. We use we don't feel like a great man or something like that.
Right.
One suggestion is that we've got such a great folks here. Maybe after this bill, you can email the roster to all of us so we can know how to contact each other.
Okay. So the recommendations that we provide the roster to everyone. So we're going to ask you, when we email communication to you, to give us your preferred email address and your preferred phone number. So if you can't get emails at work, give us your personal cell phone, your personal email, so that in the ones that you would like to share, if you would not like to share, indicate that as well. So we might recycle that though. No, just kidding. We'll get it from you, and I'll ask in the break, Mr. Roush. I want that big. Did you say that? Get her done. Get her done. We'll get it from you, and we'll make sure we get those questions done. All right? Without further ado, I am pleased and honored to introduce the man who has barbells in his shoes, who's doing all the heavy lifting. He is tried and true experience and has thousands of hours under his belt in doing this type of work, not just in Columbus, but all throughout the country. Mr. Tracy Griffin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Committee members, thank you so much for showing up this morning. I know we're going to do our best today to work towards getting you out here on time. We appreciate your time this morning. I'm just going to give you kind of a high-level overview of what we're going to go through today. It's really about hearing a lot of data. Okay, we're going to give you an opportunity in presentations to ask some questions. But I'm going to kind of do some moderating to kind of keep those presentations and questions to about a half-hour piece. Understanding that your second meeting, we open up with questions from the first meeting, so we're going to allot time. That gives you time because there's so much data there. Allows you time to kind of think through and write down the thoughtful questions that you have. My name is Tracy Richter. I will be facilitating this process. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our company. As was being said, we are a local firm. However, we work nationally. And have worked with Columbus Public before. All the first round of great programs and buildings that went through, we were a proud participant in that. So again, thank you for inviting us back to the table. Today you're going to see 3 presentations. Tracy Keeley, who is part of our team also, but also works with OSSC and Columbus Schools with enrollment. Tracy is, I can honestly tell you, one of, if not the leader in enrollment data in the country. She's been doing this probably more years than she wants me to mention. But you're going to see a lot of questions regarding enrollment, and I'm going to tell you she's the expert in this, so we'll probably have her on. Alex Trevino and Dr. Klein will also be doing presentations this morning on background, and then talk a little bit about the Lottery and Choice program to give you some baseline ground information that you can start to think through. As I start processes, I want to tell you that I think that there is a built-in trust when you go through a process like this. And trust isn't easy to earn. And once trust is gone, it can take years and years to recuperate from that. And so, as the reason we invite, the primary reason that we invite community members to be part of this, and what I'm going to call a very transparent process, is the idea that we have to trust different levels before you even get to a trust of people. So I think that the order goes like this. You have to trust data. So putting a critical eye on the data is a tremendous responsibility on the committee. We want to make sure before we go out to the broader community that our data is accurate and is clear and concise for everybody to understand. And that's going to be important. Because arguing about data at the end of this process does not create buy-in. And so we need to establish that up front. And so as I'm going to take you through some things about how we get to data, what kind of data we're going to present. But we want to make sure that everybody is on board with the data. You have the critical eye. Every part of the city, every walk of life in the city has an eye data, of course. The second thing that you can trust in is the process. I'm going to tell you there's parts of this process you're going to feel like the wheels are falling off. We're going to get to some recommendations out there that aren't popular sometimes. There's some options out there that aren't popular. Stay true to the process. Once the data is there, stay true to the process. You can trust the data process, you can trust the plan. And then finally, when you trust those three, you can trust the people. And that's the order. I don't expect you to trust everything I say when I walk in the door. I have to earn that for you. And I will work to earn that for you. And so that part of our process, again, across this country, is just that. My role is to understand and know data in this district probably better than anybody does. Good thing I live next door to the district, but it's critical that I am that deep in the data, that I can understand your question. I can get to that quickly for you. And I'm a former teacher, middle grade teacher, 7th grade, so you know I do nothing anymore. So if you have a question I can't answer, I'm going to find it for you. But if I can't answer right away, I'm going to be honest with you that I don't know. I found that with 7th graders, they're going to call you out. And then as they grow to adults, they're going to call you out. If I can find the data for you, I will. If the data's not there to get to you, I'll let you know. But I'm going to tell you, I will be right up front with you. At times I'm going to be brutally honest in this process because I have to be. You bring me in to be objective to this. That I don't have a stake in the game at the end other than providing the finest facilities for the finest children in the state of Ohio. And that's our goal. So with that, we're going to start with our first presentation. Again, I'm going to try to moderate this as best I can to keep us at a half hour. The presentations, the first 3 presentations will be about 10, 15 minutes, maybe go a little beyond that, not a whole lot, which is going to allow 15 or 20 minutes of kind of the higher level questions that you might have on the surface. But if you've got those deep dive questions, you might want to just record those down. That's why we've given you some note paper to do that with. And so in the second meeting, we're going to do kind of those deep dive questions. The other thing I want to inform you of, and I'll tell you this at the end of it also, is that on Monday morning, we will have a live website. So look at it at the end of work, so at the end of the workday. Because as transparent as we are, there's going to be a link on the website, on the Columbus City Schools website, that will show you everything that we've done. Every meeting will be posted with an agenda, with minutes, with presentations, with everything that we do, including video when we videotape these. And I think that all of these meetings will be videotaped. And so we want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. So look for that on Monday afternoon at the end of the day. It'll go live on Monday morning, but there's always a technology glitch, you know that. So we'll follow up with that. So in that light of getting a roster together, all committee members, you're going to see all of that on there. So we want to make sure that we do that. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tracy Healy, and she's going to start with enrollment and the projections out there. And then we've got this right here. You ready to go? Thanks, everyone. And we'll put your presentation up.
Okay, perfect. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. And, so it wasn't hard enough to get up on a Saturday morning. We're going to excite you with a lot of data and talk about math. And so I'll do my best to keep it interesting and exciting as we move forward. But again, my name is Tracy Healy. I've been working on enrollment projections, as Tracy Richter said, for a long time. Started with Melanie and the Ohio School Facilities Commission back in 1998, doing the projections for all the schools entering an OSFC program. So I've been working here in Columbus since right around when we started the Urbans back in 99, 2000. So I'll share some of that data with you as well as we move forward. So in looking at the enrollment projections, there's a lot of considerations that we take a look at. For this last go-round with the Ohio School Facilities Commission, we did an update to the projection back in early spring, which was completed in June. After completing that report, Columbus City Schools asked if we could also provide enrollment projections by school. all of the projections done for the state are district-wide. But as, entering into this process, we needed to, delve a little bit deeper and look at each of the by-school projections as well. So as we're looking at some of the things that Ms. Gibbs talked about in terms of the school boundaries, attendance zones, all of those things, obviously the by-school projections were equally as important as we move forward. Last update prior to this was in June of 2011. So I thought it might be interesting just to take a look at in hopes of building trust. And as Tracy talked about, we've been doing this a long time, and so I wanted to look at the accuracy record and looking at those. So based on the June 2011, each of those 4 years after, we were within 1% of the overall enrollment. So I felt pretty good about that. With 2013-14, it was a little bit higher within that at just under 1,000 students, which was approaching 2% with a 3-year out projection. But I wanted to share that data with you in kind of the interest of transparency and as we move forward.
Before you go back.
Oh, sure.
It's a graph that doesn't make a lot of, or a chart that doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you look at 49,532 to 49,622, that's not a negative 555.
Oh, no. And I'm sorry, I should have explained that graph a little bit more closely. Let's see, do the pointer here.
I'm just questioning why it's created that way, because it should be read and understood.
Right, okay, so 2011-12, what our projection was 5,000, or 50,281. It was 84 off of what the actual projection was, which is actually on the next graph. So you can see, so then for 2012, our projection was just under that. So each of those years just shows them what our difference was versus the projection. Okay, and I apologize, I should have explained it a little. I just think, everyone just understands my data, right?
Right, gotcha.
So, oops. Okay, and there's the pointer. Okay, so within this case, so here's the actual or historical data. So we can see back in 2005-06, in the last 10 years, just under 60, where we've been kind of that stabilization that we've seen over the last 4 years. And then here, that blue line is our 2011 projection. So you can see where we were based on the actual versus what was projected during that point in time. And then this kind of pink line is what the new projection is based on this year's data. So looking at that and putting together an enrollment projection, we look at several pieces of data. Obviously, the historical enrollment is, where we start. Because actually, what we're looking at in terms of what's happened in the district is our best indicator of what's going to continue to happen. So getting all of that historical enrollment data is very important. We'll also look at the number of births in the area. So first will help us take a look at where we're seeing growth and how that's impacting our kindergarten enrollment 5 to 6 years later. So, assembling that data is also very key. We'll also look at housing. We've seen a lot of new housing, during this whole time, back from 2000, we saw, kind of the boom in housing, and then we saw the big bust in, 2008, how that's impacting. Now, as we're seeing pick up in the economy again, we're seeing some increases in housing, especially, most recently with the multifamily housing in Columbus. Everywhere you turn around, it's, you see another apartment going, and where are all these people coming from? And so obviously getting a handle on how that's impacting the enrollment and where that's going to lead us in the future is very key. Also look at things like the community school enrollment and open enrollment and how that impacts our projections in the future. Also look at some general population data. So we'll look at kind of what's happening overall as a district in terms of population, some of the economics, and how that is also impacting our enrollment. So I want to stress that the projections are a holistic approach. It's not like, oh, well, this
development's happening, so that means, there's 50 more kids in this area. And, oh, well, there was births were higher over in this zip code, so that means it's, not a pick and choose. We have to look, certainly district-wide, want to look at it holistically and how each of these things impacts overall. So sometimes people think, well, okay, there's a new development. How many kids did that add to our projections? I'm going to say, well, I don't know. Because what we're looking at is overall, here's what's happening. We can take a look at what yield factors are. We've done that in other districts where we've gone down to the subdivision level. Said each, this subdivision is yielding X amount of kids based on, the housing size, the price, the age is something that we're, have identified as being a contributor for the number of students that will be, coming out of those subdivisions. So we can do that, but when we're looking at the enrollment projections kind of from the more global view, it's a more holistic approach going forward. Yes?
So when you're talking about, are you looking at district-wide? Because you mentioned housing. In the housing boom, it seems like it's mostly occurred in the suburbs of Columbus and not actually inside of Columbus. So when you're looking at and you're taking these things into consideration, are you looking at Columbus City and the suburbs, or just specifically Columbus City School District?
We have looked at both. So we're trying to identify, within the city of Columbus as well as then within Franklin County. And then you see some of the maps where we've mapped the district, and you'll see, and as you we have that map over there as well, how that's impacting. So we want to get a handle on where the housing is that's going to impact the enrollment, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, we have, since Columbus obviously isn't just its boundaries, those municipality boundaries, we have to look beyond that. Okay, so historically, looking over the last 10 years, when we did this report, obviously the 15-16 data was not yet available, and that's still in the process of kind of being finalized. And so, but I wanted to give you kind of a just breakdown, grade level from, as I mentioned, 10 years ago, we're just under 60,000. Now right around 50,000, and have really seen that stabilization from 2010, kind of forward, where we're with right around 50,000 students. So that decline, even though significant over that 10-year period, is really within the first 6 years of that historical enrollment chart.
Excuse me, what is ungraded?
Okay, whoops. Okay, so the ungraded are students that aren't within a particular grade, that they may be special needs or weren't part of assigned to a specific grade. So, we went from the states, I can answer that a little bit more quickly, but so it's a pretty small number. Yeah. Okay, so births, and I'm sorry, I was supposed to repeat the question. She asked what was ungraded, if you did not hear that. So number of births, what we do is look at the births by zip code within the district. So we assembled all of the zip codes within Columbus, which are numerous, of course, and took a look at what those births were. So here you can see we went back to 1999, taking a look at that, where it was just under 9,000 students, or 9,000 births. And then here in 2009, we saw a peak of just under 10,000. And then since then, it's been pretty steady within that 9,500 number of births. And actually in 2013, which is still the last year that's available through the Ohio Department of Health, we were at 9,834. So again, while we saw some lower births, in these middle years, we've seen some, kind of, again, some stabilization and some increase over the last couple of years. So you can kind of see that illustrated there. One of the things we also look at in analyzing the historical enrollment are the survival ratios. So on this chart, you can see grade to grade, year to year, what the survival was. So the survival is just telling us how many students you started with, in this case, in kindergarten, in this K-1, and how many were in first grade the following year. So you can see on average, about 97% of those students who were in kindergarten last year are in kindergarten this year. Okay, so right close to about 100%. This birth decay looks at the birth chart that we just looked at, and then identifies about 50% of those students who are born within the Columbus City School District attend kindergarten 5 to 6 years later. Okay, so about half of that is what we're seeing in terms of the enrollment from birth decay. So that just means people are choosing another option. They move out of the district before their child becomes school age. And then, so then you can see, across the board, year to year, where we've been. We've seen in some recent years a higher survival ratio than we had seen previously. So again, that points to the stabilization within the district that we're seeing over those last 4 years, where, up in the earlier years, we were seeing a lower survival ratio, meaning more people were moving out of the district. So, from the grade levels, we're seeing, really around about 70 or 97% through 8th grade, and then 8 to 9, of course, is always much higher. There, we see a higher survival ratio there. There are people who were maybe choosing another option for the lower grades, and then they're coming to Columbus for high school. There's also, in terms of the way 9th and 10th graders are accounted, depending on if they don't have enough credits, even though they passed from 9th to 10th grade, they're sometimes still in that 9th grade enrollment because they haven't yet got enough graduation requirement courses to be considered a 10th grader. So that can kind of push that 8 to 9 up a little bit too.
Tracy,
Yes.
does that reflect the raw ADM per grade level? I mean, are you looking at longitudinal stability of students as well? Because we have about 17% of mobility rates. So
Right.
kiddos are moving out each year and other kiddos are moving in and
Yes.
taking those places. So this is just saying, at this grade level we have this many, and then the next year we have
Right.
this many, but it's not necessarily the same kiddos.
Right, correct, correct. And another key point is to just know that we're looking at roughly the same point in time until ODE did away with the official October account, which so this year, we'll be scrambling a little bit last year in terms of that. But so this was the October head count for each of those years. So knowing that it was, one student for each, not an average daily membership, which is, a little bit different, so. Okay, so community school enrollment. Took a look at how that has impacted. Certainly, so we started the project back in 2000, doing the initial master plan and enrollment projections. Where community schools were just really kind of in their infancy in terms of that. So we've seen how that's kind of weathered, over the years. And you can see from that, about 8,500 students back in 2005 to just under 17,000 last year.
You had a question?
Please define a community school.
Okay.
All have the same language, so I don't know exactly.
Okay.
If we have questions during presentations, just, kind of raise your hand and we'll be able to
Sure.
see you and hear you, because not everyone can see and hear you,
Right.
especially at that angle.
Okay, so she asked what a community school is, and not everyone has the same definition of that, which, okay. So these are basically the schools that are charter schools that aren't, Columbus Public operated. So, so at this point, so we have about 17,000 students who are Columbus City School District residents, but choose to attend a community or a charter school. And so we've seen in the last 2 years kind of a stabilization there. We'll see as that moves forward what that means. Yes.
Do you have a tally on the voucher impact and also those that aren't going to Columbus schools or charters?
Those parochial schools, is that included in there?
No.
That is not. That is just simply community.
And that's not, okay, and that's also not homeschool.
No, no. This is just those who are attending a charter charter school. Yes, Rebecca.
Does this include Christian, Jewish, Catholic schools, or is this just charter schools?
Okay. The question was, does this include Jewish, Catholic, Christian schools? And the answer is no. These are just, they're not private school students.
Will we be able to get that data, because that is a large, there are a large number of Columbus City School students that choose the voucher route.
Okay. So the question was, would we be able to get this data that for students who choose a private school or go the voucher route? And that is not data that I had within this report, but I think that's data that we can ascertain.
Can you also include homeschooling? Because that's growing tremendously.
And the question was if we could include homeschooling, which we can also do as well. Okay. Okay, and so then here we have the open enrollment within, it is not within the district, without the district. So students who live outside of Columbus schools who come into the district for education, and then those students who are residents of the Columbus City schools and leave and attend another school. You can see just recently, this past year, that it kind of evened out. Right around 400 students. So there's a pretty equal number of students coming into the district as well as those leaving to attend another school. Yes?
I have a question. Of those students that are coming into Columbus to attend Columbus City schools, has there been any analyzation as to why they're coming into the Columbus City schools? Like what is the reason behind it?
Okay. The question was, has there been any analysis of why students choose to come into the district? And the answer at this point is no, we don't have that data available to us. This was data that we obtained from the Ohio Department of Education, and as they just measure, they don't have any data that, would give us a why or not.
To find out why.
Absolutely.
Because, at least in my feeder pattern, a lot of people are coming because the suburban districts don't have the program. Like we have a hearing impairment unit in my home school. And so the suburban schools are sending their kids or letting their kids come.
Right.
And special ed is a huge expense. So
Right.
I would be curious to see why these students are coming.
Okay. And so the comment was that you'd be curious to see why students are coming into the district, and certainly special needs is a draw. There are other programs and services that are available here in the Columbus City schools that aren't available in the suburban schools. And so getting some of that information, I think, would be helpful. Yes?
Does the district receive any funding if another district sends in children?
I think so. The question was, does the district receive additional funding if students come here? And I've seen people that's not my area of expertise, but yes. Yes, ma'am.
Also, in addition to what Bishop Lane mentioned, even leaving, because I noticed when my children went to middle school, almost half of the class went to the suburbs, and we don't know why.
Right.
And I think that data would be very important to all of us to know why are they leaving at that part of their lives of their children.
Right. The comment was it would be important to know not only why are students coming into the district, but also why students are leaving the district. And if we can get some of that exit data, if there are exit interviews conducted. I don't know if that's something the district does, but we can take a look and see if we can find out some more of that information. I saw a hand. Yes.
Do we know how many potential students are living in win-win districts?
The question is, do we know how many potential students are living in win-win districts? We do have data that shows the number of school-age children within each of the areas and surrounding areas within central Ohio. And we have that data by census block group. So we could identify within each of those areas by kind of rolling up that data what that potential could be.
So Tracy, help me if I'm violating the process of it, am I?
Well, okay, we are 20 minutes into 30 minutes. I think that the questions are appropriate questions. Just so you know, we're recording these over here, so we'll be able to track those requests that we have too, Tracy, so you know that. So we'll be able to track those for you.
And that was my point. We can get the responses to almost all of the questions that have been raised, so we'll gather that and then we'll feed it out to the committee if that's all right.
Thank you,
And you're tracking this, so I don't have to keep writing.
I am, we are good. You will receive meeting minutes, everybody will, so we're tracking this for you too.
I know we're working in relatively small numbers, so I don't know what the statistical significance is, but the headline sort of indicates that it's evened out, but it looks to me from reading it like actually more are going out and fewer are coming in just
Right.
this last end. So I don't know if that's statistically significant or if these numbers are so small that we just can't draw conclusions.
Right. The difference is 38 students between, there's 400 coming in and 438 going out. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's significant at this point.
I just mean, on the historical trend.
Oh yeah, on the historical there
The
was,
historical trend is statistically significant as you sort of look across from 05 to now, the flip in the red and the blue.
right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. The question was, is it or statistically significant in terms of what's happened historically within the district? And we're talking about pretty small numbers overall. So, where we were at a high of about 600 coming in to, today about 400. So I wouldn't say it is, but again, it's just kind of one of those patterns that we want to keep track of and see how that moves forward as, what that impact would be. Okay, in terms of building permits, looked at the number of single-family permits both in the city of Columbus and within Franklin County, knowing that obviously within those two groups, we have, with the win-win agreement, it's not perfect. But again, we get a handle on what's happening kind of overall in central Ohio based on the number of building permits. So in single family.
Yeah, with the building permits.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me. Do you have Columbus, do you mean Columbus City School District or Columbus City limits?
Columbus city limits.
Thank you.
Yes. That is unfortunately the only way I've been able to get the data so far, although I continue to ask, but
It's the only way to see.
yeah. So the question was whether this is Columbus City limits or Columbus City School District limits, and it's Columbus City, so that we know that. So again, you can see 2004 for single family, this was right kind of in our boom of the housing market, about 2,700 in the city of Columbus, over 5,000 in Franklin County. And then we can see where 2008 things weren't so hot, we were down to 686 for the city and about 1,300 for the county. Since then, we're seeing a little bit, kind of a stabilization. We saw a little bit of uptick here within 2013, 2014, where we're starting to see some growth. Through November of this year, we were at 672 for the city.
Source?
This is the State of the Cities database, which State of the Cities database system. And what they do is they collect data from all over the country. So every city, county, township, municipality submits data to them. And so this way we know it's all kind of from one source. So, and then the data for Columbus, just so you know, also includes the portions of Columbus that are in Delaware and Fairfield counties too. So this kind of will extend outside. Then we can take a look at the multifamily and see where, back in 2004, we were almost double the number of single family versus multifamily. Now we're seeing that, kind of flip, right? So within the last, 4 years within the city of Columbus, there have been over, 3,000 building permits for multifamily. So again, as we're, continuing to see those apartment complexes go up, we're seeing that, kind of as a change. So again, we'll see how that impacts, the enrollment. There are some national averages. People ask me all the time, so what does that mean in number of students? Typically for a single family home, it's about 0.5 or half of a student per every new single family. And for multifamily, a lot of people think, oh, well, it must be much more. Actually, it's less. It's about a quarter of a student for every new multifamily home. So that's just kind of a national average, just to kind of put that out there. So what does that kind of mean in terms of number of students? Okay, we also looked at some population projections, just kind of from a broad view. This is data that we purchased from Esri, which is the company that put together the ArcGIS, ArcView, and those things. They have a lot of market research data. They also use census data to kind of combine all of that to look at what population estimates are by census block group, as well as projections 5 years later. So we're looking, now this is actually the Columbus City School District. It's not Columbus City limits, but the school district limits, because we're able to kind of roll up each of the census block groups within the district to get to that data. So in this case, for 2014, the estimate of the school district was about 520,000 overall people, population-wise. The projection is go to about almost 550,000 people in 2019, which is about 6% change, okay? Then we looked at it by age. So we looked at the 0 to 4 range, so our preschool kids, whatever. That's also projected to go up about 6% over time. Ages 5 through 9 projected to go up about 1.5% within the district. 10 to 14, also about 6%, and the high schoolers, 15 to 18, middle school about 9%, and then high school about 6%. So overall, right around 5% is expected over that 5-year period. So again, this is not projections for the necessarily for Columbus City Schools enrollment, but just for all of the students who live in that area. So we can kind of start to get to some of the questions that we talked about with the win-win and those things. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, I thought you had a question for me, Tracy. Also, we looked at age, and this is really interesting for the state of Ohio. This is comparison. Average age currently is just under 40, and it's projected to go just over 40 over this 5-year period. So you can see, as a whole, Columbus City School is much younger population. So of course, Ohio State plays into that, but so again, you kind of see that as kind of something different than we're seeing statewide, where we're having there are some school districts where their average age is 50. You can bet those are defining districts, right? Just turning 50 this year, I'm not having any more children. So. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Oh, and I'm sorry, the question was, there's a huge refugee population and others coming into the district that are taken into consideration. Okay, so also kind of map this, and I apologize, it's a little bit blurry as it got blown up. But so this looked at the district as a whole. Each of the areas that you can see that are colored, the red and orange areas are areas that are showing some decline within the overall population. But those in yellow and green, which obviously the majority is where we're seeing increases in the overall population. And then we also looked at household and family income, so some of the demographics. And I have here Columbus City Schools showing where median and average household incomes are projected to go up by about 15 and 13% respectively. Family size is projected to remain the same, right, at just under 3. And then the number of family households is expected to increase by about 4% over this 5-year period. It's compared to the state where we're seeing similar numbers regarding income, but the state is projected to see a little bit of a decline in the family size, and we clearly say a little bit of decline with households. Okay, so the projected enrollment, what we've projected is about a pretty flat enrollment over the 10-year period. So in 2014-15, we saw about 50,200 students. And in our 10th year, we're 5,532. 2024. So again, what we've projected is really continue stabilization of what we've seen in terms of enrollment from a district-wide perspective. So we also, as I mentioned, we also did projections by school. We used the same methodology, the same bits of data for each of those, and created those same survival charts that we saw initially, that blue chart that said grade, year by year. We have that for each of the schools. And I feel that that data is going to be very critical as we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the master plan, so that we can see on a school level where we've seen, you know, either influx of students or decrease of students, and can match that up with things that have happened within the district, whether, you know, that was a school that was used for swing space, for example, for a period of time. And we can go back and kind of account for each of the variables within the district by using that data. So it helps to answer some of the questions, you know, from a, you know, just here's the data, here's what it says, for some very difficult questions that we're going to be looking at.
And what is the methodology?
Yeah, the methodology was looking at, you know, the historical enrollment as the base. So, and then adding in the live birth numbers, and then also applying a housing component to that. So it's kind of like a cohort survival method. You know, we look at that, but with a combination of using the housing, looking at what's happening with the community school, the open enrollment, other factors combined with that. So it's like a straight cohort of, we're just kind of saying, here's what's happening, here's where we go.
Gotcha. That has a set of assumptions other than to use data, correct? And at some point, we can understand what those underlying assumptions are. I think that's critical to development of data.
Sure, absolutely.
That'd be helpful it'd be helpful for me to see in terms of what some of the assumptions were about the particular thing you factored in. Just help me understand that.
And the person was talking about understanding what the assumptions are between each of the high school projections and how that moves forward, and I think that's going to be, and really, you know, as we're looking at, you know, all of the schools, there, you know, are things that are changing, that are going to change or continue to change in terms of programs and services that will, you know, absolutely impact the projections.
That's good. That's good.
The school-by-school data is not in your packet. It's about 100 pages, but yes, we can definitely get you that information so you can see it. It also includes all of the survival ratios that I mentioned. Yes?
Two other pieces of related information that would be helpful, I assume you have. One would be the neighborhood data. So you showed like the heat maps of the neighborhoods just by population, but if we could look at the neighborhoods based on enrollment and broken down by, in that neighborhood, sort of how many of the kids are choosing pathway schools, body schools, charter, homeschool, parochial. Because there's some neighborhoods where the population could be very high and very few kids choosing the district schools or the private schools in that district, and vice versa. So if we could get that kind of information, to me that would be very helpful in decision making.
The question was, we get the neighborhood data by school and to identify the number of students living in that area, choosing the number of programs. Like the music's playing, like I need to get up, make my thank you to the community. But looking at that data, and yes, I mean that data was not part of the study, but it is data that's certainly moving forward that we're going to need to. And it's not that it's not available, it's just very labor intensive to put all of that together. But in looking through the student database and the GIS data, you'll be able to have that data.
And the second piece would be, could we see the school enrollment numbers alongside capacity?
Okay, yeah. The seeing school enrollment versus capacity, which would be, again, wasn't part of this initial part, but will definitely be part as we move forward in the master plan.
And then next time, can we get these slides a little bit bigger?
You can have the whole presentation. We can just email you the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, to print that 70 times, so we're going to do by school. Yeah.
We do raise the students and not raise at all from each particular nationality they are in.
have we trained, I'm sorry.
ESL students.
Oh, the ESL. We did not pull, the question was, did we track the ESL students? We did not pull ESL students out separately as part of this initial study. But again, moving forward as part of the plan, that's going to need to be another component that we can look at. We can do.
Not only is he asking aggregate data, but separated by nationality.
Right, right. And within the database, we can do that where we can have any of the attributes that we want. So ethnicity, nationality, special needs, language, any of those things. So we can arrange that data so we can see where students live in the district versus where they're attending school, which is also going to be a very key component moving forward. Okay, so the enrollment projections going forward. Just a couple key things. The enrollment projections, are measured. We need to continue to monitor all the factors. Things change. Ms. Gibbs mentioned in her opening comments about, we're at a point in time, things are changing by the minute, and we're just, running to keep up. So again, as new things, new data becomes available, obviously that's going to be something we need to factor in. We're not going to run the projections every time new housing development comes online, but again, we want to make sure that we're confident with where we're going in terms of the direction and knowing, keeping and assembling all of the data as it becomes available. Second thing, the projections are only as accurate as the given point in time that we're at, right? So, my hesitancy in presenting, today after, 15, 16 data is available, I was going to say, oh, but our 15, 16 data was this and your projection was that. Well, know that, we want to get that measured at that point in time. And so, and again, kind of the data is only as good, coming out as it is going in. So as we continue to move along with this process, that's going to, again, be another key component. As variables change, projections will be monitored. There's a process in place with the School Facilities Commission where every year as new data becomes available, the projections are reviewed. And, if there's a problem or there's something that needs to be addressed, that can be addressed. So that process is in place. Obviously, as we move forward with the facility plan, outside of that process, we can also make changes as we need to going forward. And remember that the projections are the roadmap for decision making. They're kind of the building block, as we're looking at how, things versus capacity versus schools and, where students should be looking at attendance boundaries. Projections don't answer all the questions. They're there to help you make the decisions. They don't make the decisions. They're here to help you with the decision-making process. So, okay. I hesitate to ask if there are any more questions because Tracy's going to say no.
So thank you, Tracy. That is an informative discussion right there. So Tracy, thanks so much. So sometimes you debate on how you present in a day. I end with process today. And in the process, I'm going to talk about something called background report that's going to be provided for you before the next meeting. We'll include facility data, enrollment data, program data, all kinds of things. I'm going to cover that in my presentation. So if you have questions as to what may be included for data, when in an effort to get through these two presentations, leave those for my presentation because I'm going to ask you at the point of the background report. I purposely stopped in my presentation to say, okay, we're going to present this to you in the background report. What else would you like to see? That way, it'll make it not to stop at the 12 question, but not after that, because I really want that dialogue. I thought those questions were awesome at a good level and didn't do the deep dive that we can get into next time. In the background report, the appendix to the background report will be the enrollment projection report, 190 some odd pages that come with it. That will allow you to see a lot of that stuff too. So just so you know that that's in there. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex. He's going to give you kind of a background of where we've been in facility planning and how we set the stage to move forward. I'm going to move the presentation. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Again, Alex Trevino, the District's Director for Capital Improvements. And as Tracy said, I'm going to give you an update on kind of developing and updating a facilities master plan is complex and continually evolving. We talk about the facility master plan being a living document, and we need to make it that way. The primary considerations that come to bear in the development of a facilities master plan are enrollment projections, which Tracy just talked about, building condition, which I'll talk to you about a little bit further later on, site assessments. Because of the unique program that the state of Ohio has incorporated through the Ohio School Facilities Commission, they're certainly an integral part of the planning process, and then academic program. And I'll give you more detail about each of these through the presentation. At the heart of all this work is understanding what we want to accomplish as a district in terms of our facilities, and ensuring that each student has access to an educationally adequate facility. Tracy Healy already gave you a lot of background information about enrollment, but just to give you a brief recap. So we know that since the district's original facilities master plan was adopted in 2002, that we dropped from about 59,000 students to a little over 50,000 students for school year 14-15. Our enrollment projections or enrollment data for this year does show for this current school year, and we'll certainly be watching it very closely as we continue through the year to see if there's any changes in that projection. It is fairly fortunate that our projections do show that our enrollment will be fairly flat over the next 10 years. And so that obviously remains one challenge that we've had over the past 10 years trying to adapt to that decrease in enrollment. But that demographic change across the city will drive the decisions as to where we build and renovate our school facilities to meet capacity needs. What you see in front of you is a heat map that came directly out of Tracy Healy's enrollment projections. And this is a heat map of the city showing only the school-age children by area of the city. So these are school-age children 5 through 18, and it's the change projected between the years 2014 and 2019. Green indicates growth, while red indicates decline. So while we think our enrollment over the next 10 years will be fairly flat, we know that by neighborhood, we'll see increases and decreases based upon the unique demographics of those neighborhoods. And to that end, we've asked Tracy Healy, as she discussed, to take a deeper dive into that data to help us understand where those students will actually be neighborhood by neighborhood and school by school in the next 10 years. I put this very simple graphic up to help depict our progress in our current facilities master plan. The district again adopted our current facility master plan in 2002. We currently operate 110 school sites, and through the generosity of the voters, we've now completed 43 new or completely renovated school projects with the final 3 that are funded in construction. So again, of those 110 assets, 46 of those buildings that are shown in green are what we call our FMP projects. They represent 23,609 student seats. And then in red, you see our 64 existing buildings, which here is referred to as our legacy buildings, and those are buildings that remain to either be rebuilt or renovated. Just to give you an idea of the flavor of buildings that currently exist across the district, of our legacy buildings, one of those buildings is over 125 years old, and that is our Back Elementary building, which currently serves as our Gifted Academy, and that's at the top left corner of the screen. 3 of those buildings are between 100 and 125 years old. 5 buildings are between 75 and 100 years old. 34 of those buildings are between 50 and 75 years old. So that's the vast majority of our fleet. And those are kind of represented across the middle of the screen by Ridgeview Middle School, Como Elementary, and Walnut Ridge High School. 20 of those buildings are between 25 and 50 years old. And those are represented by the top right, Centennial High School. So a lot of our 70s buildings are in that cluster. And only one of those buildings is less than 25 years of age. And that's our Woodcrest Elementary building that was renovated to house our year-round program. And it's actually a renovation of the 1950s era building. Prior to the 2002 bond issue that kicked off the district's facilities master plan work, and the subsequent opening of Linden Elementary in 2004, the district had not constructed a new school facility since the 1970s, when the capital program at that time resulted in the construction of buildings such as Independence High School, Avalon Elementary, and Beechcroft High School, just to name a few. This map represents geographically the work completed to date through the current facilities master plan. The original facility master plan was conceived to be 128 school projects divided into 7 segments that would be executed over 15 years. A $392 million bond issue approved in 2002 in tandem with 30% matching funds through the Ohio School Facilities Commission funded 35 projects that comprise segments 1 and 2 of the plan. The first project of that group, Linden Sten Elementary, opened in April of 2004. A subsequent $164 million bond issue was approved by voters in 2008, and it funded 10 additional projects that comprise segment 3 of the plan. In addition, after a fire, Stewart Elementary was added to segment 3 of the plan, bringing the total number of facility master plan projects funded today to 46. The last of the currently funded projects, our Afrocentric Early College Pre-K-12 school, will open for school in January of 2017. Including our operating school buildings, in total, the district presently manages 150 sites. Those include 15 administrative, operations, and support sites. They include 11 sites that are under lease or shared use agreement, and 14 vacant buildings. At the back of your binder, you will see a consolidated list of all of our district assets that also state their current use, whether that's a school or an administrative site. And I do just want to give you a couple examples of how, while you'd like the data to be very straightforward, sometimes it is not. So just to give you a couple examples, you'll see our Beery Middle School building. And that is a building that was vacant for some period of time. It is now under a shared use agreement with the Columbus Metropolitan Library and operates as a branch of Marion Franklin for them. It also houses our adult ed program, so it is a mixed use for us at this time. And just to give you another example, our Fort Hays campus currently operates as a high school. It operates as a career center. It also houses our Central Enrollment Center, as well as having a lease for the childhood lease new project, so it is complicated. It also has vacant buildings on it as well at this time. Today, the district has a tremendous backlog of deferred maintenance needs. Those include items such as roof replacements, mechanical system overhauls and replacements, window and entry replacements, just to give you a few examples. At present, there are no identified and budgeted sources of funds for deferred maintenance. Having said that, we worked diligently, and the buildings and grounds budget was increased by $1.5 million this year, and to the largest extent possible, those funds are being targeted to tackle deferred maintenance. We've also been able to leverage our sale of real estate fund to replace 5 roof projects over the past year and to replace 2 running tracks. Other elements that come into play with the facility master planning process, as we discussed, the enrollment projections and studies. We're also looking at our enrollment projections for what we call our in-app reports. And this is to help us understand school by school whether students are attending a neighborhood school or making other choices. Understanding where our students attend their home school versus utilizing that school choice is invaluable. We'll also be examining our enrollment at the various school sites in comparison to the existing building capacities. We'll be utilizing our consultants to study the enrollment projections by attendance area. In aggregate, this data will be analyzed to determine where to build our school facility capacity. We have completed a project to assess the condition of our existing facilities to help guide the planning and decision-making of our facility master plan. Understanding the current condition of facilities will inform us how to budget for capital refresh necessary to preserve the life of our existing facilities until we can fund a replacement or renovation. This process will also help to establish a priority and a sequencing of the projects in the facility master plan. We will utilize this data to formulate what we have previously called with the Ohio School Facilities Help a warm, safe, and dry program. And so we envision something separately, but similar going forward, that will allow us to tackle those deferred maintenance projects. Site assessments have also been completed, and this is just our tool to help capture information such as the acreage, frontage, and other elements that will impact the ability to redevelop any of our existing sites. This will help guide our work as we assess the highest and best use for each of our sites. Again, I've touched on the Ohio School Facilities Commission. They have been an integral part of our planning process, and we expect to continue that relationship. They provide an invaluable resource in terms of planning tools, and the state is also providing 30% matching funds towards our program. Academic program will also drive much of our decision-making as we endeavor to provide a continuum of services that equitably support, from cradle to career, our general education, special education, and accelerated students, providing accommodation for students with disabilities, our English language learners, and each student we serve, ensuring that each and every child reaches his or her full potential, prepare to go to college, secure a job, serve in the military, or start a business. Those considerations will include neighborhood schools. Our city has a long history of small neighborhood schools. In tandem with that, we're also a school district of school choice. How to balance those two needs that sometimes are in competition with each other will, I'm sure, be of much discussion. Feeder patterns. How might we consider realigning feeder patterns? And just to give one example, is there opportunity to realign in such a way that we can help to enhance matriculation for elementary to middle school and middle school to high school? School size. Is there any one particular ideal size for any particular grade configuration? And how to balance the intimacy of a small school with the efficiency and specialized academic programming that can be more economically delivered in a larger school environment. Swing space. This is a necessary consideration for many of our construction projects due to the limited acreage that we have in our sites. And yet we know that swing space is very disruptive and can be detrimental to the enrollment of particular schools. It's also costly for us to hold on to swing space. Early childhood and adult education. These are programs that we know are of vital importance to the community, and yet are not part of the state's K-12 funding formula for operations or for the capital improvements. As we strive to provide these cradle to career pathways, how should facilities for these programs be addressed? Grade configurations, and we'll review that one shortly. And a specialized program. Where and how should specialized programming be accommodated? It could be immersed within a larger school setting. It could also be specialized in dedicated facilities, and that's something that I think we should discuss further. Grade configurations. In present, we operate just about every grade configuration you could imagine. And in my count, there are 55 elementaries in the traditional setup, either K-5 or pre-K-5. There are 16 buildings that operate in a traditional middle school grade band of 6 through 8. There are 14 traditional grade band high schools of grades 9 through 12. There are 14 schools that operate in either a K-6 or a pre-K-6, with 3 companion 7-12 buildings. There are 3 buildings that operate in a K-8 band. There is 1 building that operates as a K-12. There are 2 buildings that operate as 6-12s. And there is 1, the Gift of the Academy, that operates as a 3 through 8. So again, the question just becomes, is there any one size that fits all? Or is this something that should and can be separated, different feeder patterns, different academic programs? And what is the best solution? At present, the district offers alternative schools at the high school, middle school, elementary, and K-8 grade bands. You'll receive more information on these programs in the next presentation. The district also offers Career Center education, and that's offered at 2 sites, including our 4K Career Center, which is mostly a renovation of existing buildings with some new addition, as well as the building that we're in today, our downtown high school. The district also offers a Global Academy, newly relocated to the former Brookhaven High School building. It serves grades 6 through 12, and a sheltered middle school and high school program that specializes in serving the needs of the district's English language learners. The district also offers the Gifted Academy this year, a newly formed self-contained gifted program housed at the former Beck Elementary School in Schumacher Place. It serves grades 3 through 8, and the program is one option within a continuum of gifted services offered to our students. Early childhood education currently consists of pre-kindergarten classrooms at various elementary school buildings across the district. The district now also houses shared use pre-K classrooms that are provided through third parties such as the CDC Head Start, Early Start, and the YMCA. The district also provides land at a number of our sites to accommodate modular classrooms that also provide early childhood education opportunities. Adult education consists of a dedicated facility at the Hudson Community Education Center, which they have currently outgrown, as well as classrooms at the Beery Adult Education Center that's co-located with the Marion Franklin Branch Library. The adult education program also utilizes various classroom sites across the city to accommodate after-school evening classes. Yet additional elements to consider in this facility master plan include our non-academic facilities. We talked a little bit earlier about the number of some of these, but some of the other options that will come into play are athletic sites. And most of these are options that, while we certainly desire to include in our facility master plan, are built into programs that the state will not co-fund through their program. So again, our athletic sites, our administrative and operation sites. We also need to consider our leased and vacant buildings and the best long-term use of those sites. We'll also want to consider property acquisition. Should we consider strategic acquisitions where we can improve existing sites, particularly if we know there are ones we'll want to redevelop? We'll also want to look at historic buildings. The district continues to operate and maintain a number of historic school facilities. We've also renovated a number of historic school facilities, so we know that renovation to make them educationally adequate is possible. So where are those sites across the city that we desire to continue as educational sites, and if there are ones that we think have other purposes, how do we identify those? We should. It shows up in our property report, but yes, the district has maintained a number of oddball. The question was, should we include Spruce Run? And you will see it in the property report. If you're not aware, the district owns through donation a property called the Spruce Run Nature Center. It currently houses a classroom facility that individual schools can schedule out and take full classrooms up there to do studies in nature. There's a greenhouse at the site. Again, something that most folks probably do not know the district owns and operates.
Don't go to Canada.
As we develop the plan, let's talk about implementation. Implementation in the past has largely been guided by a worst first strategy. Is this the best and only prioritization that should be considered going forward? We know that we presently have a number of feeder patterns that are struggling with over-enrollment. So as we look at those particular feeder patterns, is that one of the considerations we should put into the prioritization for implementation? Programmatic needs. Our legacy buildings represent a wide range of design styles and construction types, each with their own unique opportunities and challenges. As one example, many of our 1970s buildings were built as open concept plans. While many of those plans have evolved over time, can these buildings meet the programmatic needs of our schools for today's needs? And keep in mind that many of our buildings, or really all of our buildings that are legacy buildings, were built before there was any concept of modern technology. And several of them were even built before electricity was a common household utility. Academic achievement. Again, it's just another data point, but should it come into play in terms of the implementation strategy? And then geographic equity. I think this one largely speaks for itself, which you saw from the earlier plan where the current facility master plan projects have occurred, and is that something that should be taken into consideration for implementation? Timeline. So just to kind of review the steps that we have, where we are in the process right now. So we have already completed interior assessments of the spaces, as well as building system assessments. These assessments give us a snapshot of the condition of our buildings, which will come into play in terms of how we think we'll sequence the project, and again, the need for tackling the maintenance to keep our buildings in operation until we can get them renovated or replaced. The enrollment projections provided by Future Think are completed and delivered, although we'll continue to refine and focus that data, especially based upon the feedback we're receiving today. Work that's in progress. I think we'll call the Ohio School Facilities Commission collaboration ongoing until we complete this process. And we'll certainly be, my office will be in constant communication with Melanie and her staff as we work through this plan. The ad hoc committee, at long last, we are here and process, and we're very excited to be here to officially commence this process. Leadership team, in Dr. Good's direction, we have been meeting internally as a leadership team to look at all the pertinent issues and to try to gather data to be prepared for this kickoff of this process. And we'll continue to meet as necessary to pull together the data that's required. The next steps really are the updating and offering of this plan. And then we just want to talk about high level the financial considerations. So just to give a very brief overview of how we currently finance school facilities. At present, the district's general fund is largely used to fund our buildings and grounds or maintenance department. Bond funds have been the primary funding source for the facility master plan projects to date. In conjunction with those local bonds, again, the State Video High School Facilities Commission has provided 30% matching funds. The district has in place what we call an 034 half mill maintenance fund. It is a permanent improvement levy that is restricted to use on the completed facility master plan buildings, and it is a prerequisite of entering into the OSFC's building program. The district has a sale of real estate fund. We've been fortunate to have a number of projects that we can sell to help fund that particular fund. We've used that fund to fund the renovation work for Stewart Elementary School, since we obviously did not prepare for that fire in the original bond issue, but we're able to tackle that project in segment 3. We've also been able to accomplish 5 roof replacements over the past year, including Walnut Ridge and East Moore Academy, as well as 2 track replacements at Independence and Northland High School. Going forward, the district could consider a multitude of funding options, such as an additional permanent improvement fund, additional bond issues. We could also look at pursuing non-traditional sources of revenue, such as leases, naming rights, or advertising. And that concludes my presentation. Questions? So the question is, when are the, I think maybe when the bonds expire, or when?
When they expire, and they consider to be
So I am not the financial expert, but I don't, so the bonds, as I understand, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the bonds are, when they are voted on, are for a predetermined period of time, and there is no automatic renewal. So any renewal would go back before the voters, or it would really be a new bond issuance.
There's not a renewal concept. You go on a bond issue for a certain amount of bonds, it's the usual period of time, and that authorization is exhausted. So,
when are they expire?
They expire over a variety of years. Overall, we usually issue one of the critical issues depending upon name of the bond issue and the useful life of the project. So I can't give you an exact date as to what the ones are still out. We are just date right now.
It would just be, to see what's expiring in the next 10 years of the current plan. If we know how big ones are going to expire.
But they won't be used.
But they won't.
But with the government's suggestion, I think this is a good recommendation. My committee that a list of the bond issues, the bonds which have approved by those, and when they expire. We know that all the money is being used, but it gives us an idea of what happened.
Yeah, how big they are.
Yes, sir. Should I repeat the question and answer? So the question was, is there impact to general fund through the win-win